They called the last thing my dad ever built a safety hazard, brought in a crew at dawn, and started tearing it to splinters while the coffee in my truck holder was still too hot to sip. Yeah, that happened. And in that moment, something in me that's usually patient and polite just snapped, because that bridge wasn't lumber to me. It was 3 summers of learning how to measure twice, cut once, and shut up and do the hard part right. The HOA president, Lydia Pratt, hairsprayed into a helmet clipboard like a badge, watched those chainsaws sing as if she were saving the town from a plague. She smiled when she saw me, the kind of smile folks wear when they've already decided your grief is inconvenient to their plans. "Perfect timing, Evan," she said, like we had a meeting. "Emergency permits, structural danger, community impact. Your little bridge has to go. And after today, you'll be leasing dock space from our marina at market rates." You could hear the dollar signs clacking in her throat. I looked past her at the men cutting through cedar my dad and I handpicked, and I didn't say what I was thinking. I just tasted its salt and sawdust, and the ugly feeling that comes when somebody tells you what's yours is actually theirs. Here's what Lydia never said out loud, but made sure everyone believed that my bridge was the problem, not her plan to build a centralized luxury marina with managed access and fees that would turn every neighbor into a customer. My little company, Brooks Marine Logistics, ran fine with direct water access. I didn't owe her a dime, and that gnawed at her. She'd been selling a dream about property values and curated views, and my stubborn independence didn't fit the brochure. That night, my buddy Colt works at the Port Authority, knows where the water really moves, slid me a beer at Murphy's and said, "You're looking at the wrong lumberman. It isn't the planks, it's the valve." Granite Basin Power was unloading the old dam compliance costs. New EPA rules, the whole alphabet soup, and Lydia had already sniffed around. If she gets the marina and the dam, he said, she'll run the lake like a cash register. You'll be paying her to breathe. Let me back up a sec. People think logistics is trucks and timing, but the whole game is leverage, where the choke point is who holds it, how quiet they can keep while you learn it the hard way. So I stopped staring at the empty gap where Dad's bridge used to sit and started reading deeds, environmental notices, county regs, stale PDFs no one opens unless something breaks. I set up a quiet entity, Brooks Water Management LLC, nothing flashy, and called a compliance engineer named Dr. Nolan Pierce, who loves 2 things, clipboards and being asked how something really works. Nolan walked me through bottom outlets, discharge rates, monitoring protocols, the whole playbook, and halfway through he chuckled and said, "Most folks don't realize how much discretion a dam operator has, as long as the paperwork sings in tune." You know what I mean? It wasn't a villain monologue, it was a manual, and I was taking notes. Granite Basin wanted out fast deadlines, inspections, money bleeding through a dozen tiny holes, so we cut a clean deal. 2 weeks later, I held the keys to the concrete throat that decides whether Mirror Lake looks like a postcard or a puddle, and I kept my name off the marquee. Lydia's lawyer, Janice Whitfield, sent a letter the same day threatening to sue me for unauthorized commercial activity. I called her, asked if the HOA had fully digested state water code as it relates to lawful maintenance windows. Confidence met silence on the line, and silence blinked first. Nolan's inspection said the bottom outlet needed service anyway, and the summer weather gave us a perfect maintenance window with 72 hours notice, routine, boring, blessed by statute. Lydia's big investor showcased, the one with drone shots and glossy flyers promising pristine water views at $10 million a smile, was scheduled for July 14th. Photos at exactly 10 a.m. If I filed maintenance notice 3 days before, we'd be in full legal operation that morning, radioing the county every 30 minutes while sensors pinged and cameras rolled. I told myself this wasn't revenge, it was stewardship with good timing. Then stared at the ceiling for 3 straight nights, wondering if I was kidding myself. The HOA meeting before the showcase was a circus. Lydia preached about managed access and long-term value graphs and renderings glowing behind her like gospel. Fees would go up, 40% slips would be premium, and anything commercial would live under her roof from now on. Folks nodded until the numbers hit their stomachs. Then you could see the math change their faces. She pointed at me during public remarks. My old bridge had been an unsafe competitive advantage, and she made me the villain in a PowerPoint that forgot who actually moves the water. I smiled back without teeth because I already knew what the paperwork in my glove box could do. 72 hours later at 5:30 a.m., Nolan and I stood at the control panel while Dawn lit the spillway like a stage. We checked every monitor twice. Wildlife tracking, green water quality within bounds, weather clear. He opened the valves in sequence, deliberate and slow, and we started talking to the county, 30 minutes on the dot, reporting flow, logging everything. At 8 a.m., the lake was down 2 feet. At 9 a.m., 4 feet. Docks reached into air, moorings looked drunk and shiny. Yachts settled on their own reflections like injured swans. And at 9:40, with 20 minutes till those drones were supposed to fall in love with Lydia's views, I drove the shoreline and watched her dream turn into a brown ring of honesty no camera could crop out. The lead investor. A woman in heels that were not built for mud asked Lydia where the water went as if someone had stolen it in the night. Agents whispered into phones. Buyers filmed the shoreline like they'd discovered a scam, and one developer said, "Call us when you control your lake," which was a line so perfect I couldn't have written it. Local news rolled in by 10:30, as predictable as sunrise after a storm, and a neighbor showed the reporter a video of his yacht lying sideways like a beached whale. By noon, 3 big deals evaporated like mist. By 2, my phone lit up with Janice threatening an emergency injunction, and I walked her through what would happen if an HOA tried to block lawful safety maintenance on a dam with documented wear. She said she'd consult environmental counsel the way people say I need a minute to stop being wrong. Here's the twist one you won't see on a brochure. While the lake ran shallow for maintenance, I finished a private cargo ramp on my own shoreline, built to spec, permitted where it needed to be, no HOA approval required because it sits squarely in my lawful operations lane. The bridge they smashed was sentimental and useful. The ramp I poured during the window made me untouchable. When I said that out loud later, Lydia's face changed like I'd turned the lights on in a room she'd been hiding in. By 7 p.m., the emergency board meeting looked like a trial without a judge. Cameras outside homeowners, inside hands jabbing the air. Lydia tried to call it an unprecedented infrastructure event, and half the room asked why she hadn't read a public notice posted in the same place she's been posting dog waste reminders for years. When she asked me to speak, I stood with a single page in my hand, the settlement terms, and said as calmly as I could that the maintenance was lawful and necessary, and that I was seeking resolution for the wrongful destruction of my father's bridge and for the business they tried to starve. The room went quiet the way rooms do before something heavy lands. I laid it out, public apology on video, $250,000 in damages, full funding for a memorial bridge in my dad's name, published seasonal maintenance calendars recognized in HOA policy. So we never dance this dance again, and mandatory disclosure in every waterfront listing that water levels vary due to lawful operations. You could watch the realization wash over them. Every sale, every postcard, every pristine view would now come with the truth stapled to it. Mrs. Ellison, 2 doors down from Lydia, whispered, "That's fair," like she was surprised to hear herself say it. Janice tried to bargain the number down, but homeowners weren't in the mood to defend somebody else's mistake with their money. Board members flinched away from Lydia like she might stain their suits, and someone in the back asked if recalls were allowed under the bylaws. That's when I told them about the ramp, that while Lydia was rehearsing a ribbon cutting for a marina, I'd already made my business independent of her entirely. You could feel the temperature drop. Lydia had been choking a hose that wasn't connected. They signed. The apology went viral in our little corner of the world, shared by 1,000 angry group chats with captions like "Don't pick fights with the guy who knows where the valve is." Lydia got voted out so thoroughly the numbers looked like a misprint. The board changed, meetings got boring in the best possible way, and investors stopped circling our lake like gulls who finally realized the picnic was over. A month later, we dedicated the Samuel Brooks Memorial Bridge, paid for with settlement money, but built the way Dad would have done it, joinery. You run your fingers over planks that flex without complaint, a brass plate that says, "Built with care, kept with integrity." Nolan came by in a clean shirt for once and said, "Your old man would grin at this," and I believed him. Neighbors shook my hand, not because a fight feels good, but because it had ended with something sturdy you could step on. Property listings changed, no more fairy tales, just honest notes about seasonal drawdowns and maintenance calendars, which, funny enough, made buyers trust the place more. We meet quarterly now. I put the schedule on the projector. Folks ask if the kids' fishing derby should move a week, and nobody pretends water is a static painting you hang on a wall. Do I feel triumphant? Some days, sure, the quiet kind. The kind that lets you sit on a rail at sunset and breathe without checking over your shoulder. Other days, I think about how close I came to letting anger drive instead of judgment, and I'm grateful the law gave me a lane to be angry inside of. I still hear Lydia's chainsaws sometimes when a boat cuts the morning flat, and the wake slaps the pilings just right. And I think about how power isn't owning a lake or a meeting or a title, it's knowing how a system works and refusing to use that knowledge to lie. So here's where I leave you, standing on this bridge with the water finally back where it belongs, knowing the lake will fall and rise again, because that's how it stays healthy, knowing we put a little truth into our deeds and our listings and our meetings. If you were me, would you have filed that notice on that day? Or would you have let the photos happen and fought in court instead? Tell me where your line is, what's fair, what's too far, what you'd do if somebody swung a chainsaw at your last good memory. Drop your take below about right and wrong, about HOAs and power, and what a community owes the truth. And if you think transparency beats hype every time, say it out loud so the next Lydia hears you coming.